Or like knuckle tats do fuck Zuck.
Welcome to
CryptTeaze Family Fun Night.
Hey everybody, I'm Chase Will.
I'm Lucas Liner.
I'm Robin Ullman.
And I'm PJ Starks. And my voice totally cracked right there.
Starks.
I'm hitting puberty on your show. So no, I was playing Call of Duty with my kids, so I was screaming at them a lot.
Oh no.
And that's probably what my throat's a little out of it right now.
This is quality content, man.
Awesome.
It really is.
This is how we fucking start an episode.
This is CryptTeaze Family Fun Night, and tonight we're talking about the movie Creepshow. I almost said CryptTeaze. Messed up already.
We can talk about that one too.
I messed up already. Today we're talking about the movie Creepshow, not to be confused with the show, which is also phenomenal. And we're joined by PJ Starks, director and writer of the Volumes of Blood series. How about that? There we go.
Perfect.
Edit. Cut.
Sounds great.
We'll fix it in post. So anyway, first thoughts on the movie. Who watched it for the first time? Anybody?
I did. I had not seen it before watching it for this episode.
What was your first take on it?
I enjoyed it. It's a little, I would say, given who's behind it, Romero and King, it's a little campier than I expect from them. And that is not a slight against it by any means, but it's knowing enough of their material, especially the early King works that are just weird and out there. It was like almost tongue-in-cheek,
Yeah.
but in a fun way. I mean, I think it still holds up almost 40 years later. But
How much have you read of
weird...
Stephen King?
Everything.
Just curious.
Quite a bit. I haven't read a lot of the new stuff, but like,
because whatever I've read, like it hasn't surprised me. But I mean, I have also seen Creepshow, and I rewatched it again. But I thought I'd never seen it, but I'd seen pretty much all of it. So like, I guess I had.
TJ, you did an anthology. How's this movie? How did it kind of inform that for you? Like you watched it obviously before the anthology, right?
No, yeah, I'd seen that apparently everything in this, I either just in different bits or whatever. Definitely the one with
PJ.
him in it.
Other PJ.
Oh, I didn't hear the name. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
So PJ directed anthology films. I was wondering like how this kind of informed that. Like, was it something that was influential for you, or how was that?
I mean, I would say this is a movie I grew up on. Truthfully, it's so ingrained into my DNA that I actually did not need to watch it again before this episode. But I would say most of the anthologies that I've watched up to the point in which I made Volumes of Blood played some part in kind of helping create the foundation. A lot of anthologies now a lot of the Amicus productions I didn't see until really within the last few years. So like from Beyond the Grave and the original Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, stuff like that. I didn't start seeing those until after I'd seen Volumes of Blood. But some of the stuff that I grew up with, like Creepshow, Creepshow 2, Tales from the Dark Side, a lot of the stories tend to follow the there's a comeuppance at the end, or some sort of a twist. So going into it, I knew that there had to be there needed to be a comeuppance, or it needed to be some form of a morality tale, or play off of something. But then I wanted to kind of put my own spin on it, and then some of the other filmmakers chimed in as well. So because you try not to rehash things too much. You want the film to be yours, have your voice in it. So it's Volumes of Blood has been compared to like Tales from the Dark Side and Creepshow, but I think that's because those are the big ones that everybody thinks of in terms of anthologies. So when you see something that's similar in tone, or because a lot of the stories are tongue-in-cheek in Volumes of Blood, or they have some kind of, I have a hard time not doing something with bits of comedy in it. Kevin Smith is a huge influence on me in my writing. So my stories, though serious in tone, will also be, there'll be dick and fart jokes kind of scattered about. So there's always some kind of humor and like you said, tongue-in-cheek elements thrown in. But I would definitely say everything that I'd seen up to that point influenced it to some degree.
You have like little Bratzies in the background, like Kevin Smith did, or Yoga Hoser.
No, but I did have a picture of Kevin Smith in there where I had my son, because like Volumes of Blood takes place in a library, and I had a Kevin Smith book that was written by Kenneth Muir, who's one of the filmmakers. And so I had my son, my oldest, Logan, both my kids have a cameo in it, but I have Logan pull a Kevin Smith book out and look at it. So Kevin Smith makes a cameo that I'm sure he has no idea about in Volumes of Blood.
Speaking of cameos, am I wrong, or did that Devil's Mask, it made it into other media, didn't it? It was in a show I saw recently or something.
Probably. I know it was when they did that Deadpool Christmas, the PG-13 version, the scene where Deadpool is reading to Fred Savage in the bed, behind him on the wall is the Devil's Mask, because in the original Princess Bride there's a Devil's Mask behind him on the bed. So I guess they found our mask, and then they kind of modified it a little bit, because like the horns, they colored them yellow, and so it looks similar to the Devil's Mask from what they had originally. But yeah, it's wound up in a couple different things.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so it's we pride ourselves on being 1 degree from Ryan Reynolds at this point. I mean, it's something that we know, so we'll probably end up taking it to our grave. Ryan Reynolds will, he'll probably never know anything about it.
Awkward.
Here's a question though. Since on the last couple episodes we've had gags about when this happens, drink. What's our gag going to be this
Let me see.
I feel like I want to think about this one a bit.
When Robin says something Zuck-worthy.
No, I'm the kind of person that I'm fine, but you don't poke the bear. I'm good, like la la la. Otherwise.
So, what's everybody's favorite segment in this? Because I think I know what mine is, but I want to see if you guys agree.
I got a real kick out of the Meteor Stephen King's segment. And I don't know. I just, all of it, just the way he plays Geordie, to the reference to, I didn't know what match this was, and I couldn't find it, but the match wrestling that he's watching on the television, I think, and I'm willing to put this out there to call me out on this, but I think it was a tag team match between Wild Samoans, who is Vince McMahon, by the way. He used to do commentary way back when. Reference Backlund, who was Bob Backlund, one of the first WWF World Champions, and Samoan number 1. So I think the match was the Showdown at Shea, which was August 1980, with the Wild Samoans versus Bob Backlund and Pedro Morales for the World Tag Team Championship, which Backlund and Morales won, but Backlund then had to vacate the tag titles because Backlund was already the world champion. So I nerded out on that for my own reasons, but just the way that King plays the Geordie character and all of his mannerisms and all of the vocal lines, which, considering his upbringing in Maine, is hilarious to me.
Well, actually, what I read about that was he was told to play that role as if he was Wile E. Coyote, and that's why it was so hilariously over the top and cartoonish.
That makes a lot of sense then. No, I just got such a kick out of everything in that segment. Looking at some of the other segments, I wouldn't have called this a horror comedy like some would, but that segment was just, whether it was intentionally funny or not, it was fucking hysterical.
It was good.
Especially when he's overgrown and about to go take a bath, which winds up being his ultimate undoing. Oh no, not there! When he looks down at his junk, Like, going back to dick and fart jokes, PJ, like, that was one that just fucking broke me. I'm like, it was great.
PJ, what was your favorite segment?
For me, it's a toss-up between probably the crate and then despite the fact that I touted not having to see the movie again, the title escapes me, but it's the one with Leslie Nielsen, Ted Danson, and Galen
Yeah,
Ross.
the cheater.
Oh my god, I love that
Yeah.
one so much.
That one, I think, because I'm a huge Leslie Nielsen fan,
Yeah.
and it was nice to see a more serious turn. I know that he started out doing a lot of serious roles, and then thanks to like the Zucker brothers and Jim Abrams, he ended up finding a lot of success with like the Naked Gun movies and things. But watching him in Creepshow, he's just so good as the villain in that. And of course, Ted Danson, and that's pre-Cheers for him. I think he had like just gotten the audition or was going to go audition right around the time that they shot Creepshow.
Nice.
So he wasn't even Ted Danson yet. So by the time the movie came out, he was probably already a super celebrity. But then of course with the crate, it's got probably one of the most iconic not just creatures in general, but creatures from that film. And then of course, you have Hal Holbrook and Adrienne Barbeau, and they're so good together. And her character is just such an atrocious person. And when they're at that like the dinner party, and he pulls the gun out and shoots her in the forehead, it's just such a great moment. Everyone's clapping. And that,
like,
I think
we wanted that bitch dead.
Right. There's just, you had said there's a lot. It's a lot campier than what you thought it was going to be. Just with the tongue-in-cheek humor and stuff like that. But I know that they were trying to, because of the EC comics that it's based off of, apparently, which I haven't read any EC comics, I'll be honest, but I know that from what I've heard, they have a lot of that tongue-in-cheek dark humor scattered throughout. So there's so much dark humor in those two, that those are the two I think that just kind of jump out to me the most, that I enjoy the most. But it's a toss-up between those two.
Robin, how about you?
Yeah, I love Leslie Nielsen's acting alone in that one, just like when he's horrified, because like I watched it with Zach and I was remembering watching it previously, and he just could not stop laughing at him. Like, he's just really funny.
He oversold the shit out of it, to be fair.
Oh yeah, but that's what's beautiful about that.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
and it's always great to see Stephen King. But yeah, I think part of the horror that really gets you with Stephen King that I really love is like the real life horror of like someone actually burying you in the sand and like mind tricking you into doing it yourself and all that stuff. Like, that is what Stephen King does, is get in your head. It's like, that's what I love about him. And those scenes that really, bring that out. I love the most.
The part for me was like where he knew he was going to drown, and there's also like a crab crawling next to his eye.
You're like, oh, I see you made a friend.
Yeah, that was such. Leslie Nielsen as a heel.
No, he's so great.
Leslie Nielsen as a heel, as a bad guy, is not something I wanted or knew that I wanted or needed, but I got it.
But we have it.
It's kind of like when you see somebody like Jim Carrey play a really serious role. It's hard to unsee them as the comedian and watch them in the dramatic role. I mean,
like David Schwimmer in Band of Brothers. Like, I like David Schwimmer in Band of Brothers.
Oh yeah, Ross.
Like, you see him and you're like, that's Ross. Pat. Like, hey, my voice cracked too. Don't feel bad, PJ.
I have to say, I do most relate to the guy with the bug problem though, because that would be awful.
Actually,
I don't know how I deal with that.
That was the expensive part of the movie. Actually, was the bugs. They'd have a bug wrangler. Thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, I would not have wanted to be the PA on that set. Fuck that.
No.
And from what I heard, it was still an epic failure, even with the bug wrangler, because tons of roaches still got out.
Oh, There's like what, thousands in there? How do they get that many roaches? They like go to New York and put a sandwich.
I think they said they had to fly them in from like Brazil.
What?
And they kept them in
Why
these
don't
big.
you just get regular ones, like fake ones?
Well, it's because they needed like the big ones, and the really big ones are in South America. So from what I understand, they flew them in from South America, and then a bunch of them had when they went to wrangle them and get them all together, they weren't able to get them all, and then apparently when they were like striking the set and tearing things down, roaches were just like pouring out of the walls, and yeah.
Oh,
That's the thing of
Yeah.
nightmares.
And I think a
that's
bunch of them
nightmare
actually
fuel.
got out into the, and I don't know if they got in trouble or they were worried about getting in trouble because you're not supposed to bring insects and animals from other areas
exotic
and then
animals.
let them out, right? And then let them into areas that they're not used to because it can mess up the ecosystem.
It's like the fucking frog gimmick in The Simpsons when they go to Australia. That's all I can think of when you're saying that.
Or Bart
I
destroyed.
think of those the snakehead fish in Florida.
Ugh.
Oh.
I hope they
Yikes.
do those for the moths and Silence of the Lambs. That would be a lot. Ooh.
Yeah, but like that was to me like the most cringy, not in a good creepy way, kind of episode. Because the crate I loved a lot. That was almost like a mini movie. But the one with the roaches, they creep up.
Because it was really long.
Yeah, it was. That's what she said.
Hey!
Sorry. But yeah, like they creep up on you. The last one where the roaches come out of the guy's body, they're like bursting through his neck and his chest and his face. That was so disgusting. I loved it.
And it's like, that's maybe like the most realistic horror through and through.
Yeah. Like everybody's afraid
Weird
of bugs.
shit from Antarctica.
Like, I can't think of anybody who isn't afraid of bugs. It's like a pretty universal fear.
Especially cockroaches. Like, some people are like, oh, I love spiders. Oh, I love these. Roaches? No, fuck them. Like,
Yeah, those and centipedes. No thanks. No thanks.
yeah.
Spiders,
very
just
true.
keep them away. They
Yeah,
keep
not even-
them-
I live in an old house. You would hate this place I live in.
Yeah.
So, well, do what?
Did you have roaches?
No, thankfully I don't have roaches. No, actually, when we moved, the house I'm in was built in 1940. So it's just old wood. It's like an old wooden house, and it's full of brown recluse.
Oh, God.
Oh.
Yeah. So when we moved into the house, we bombed it before we came in, and then this is like a decade ago, and there were like, there were brown recluse everywhere. So we thought, oh, okay, we should be good after that.
I
But
would
then
have
once
done
I
it like
started
5 times.
Yeah. So once I started researching brown recluse, I found out that once you have them, you always have them. And so we basically have sticky traps everywhere to keep them at bay. But I've actually had Orkin come in and pick up the sticky traps and go, holy shit. Has anyone in your family been bitten? And I said no, and they're like, you're lucky because you're infested.
Oh,
And I'm
God.
like, I don't know, I've found them
Where do you
crawling
live?
on me.
Because I'm not coming over.
Kentucky. It's not that bad. They stay in the walls mostly. Although what's funny is a couple years ago I had Cassandra Baker. She does the special effects for us. She did it for Volumes of Blood and Volumes of Blood Horror Stories. But she came over to the house. We were having some kind of special effects meeting about something, and I was talking to her about brown recluse, and they almost never come out if you have the lights on. It's usually like when the lights are off, they'll come out, which is like the worst time. And but anyway, so I'm telling her about the brown recluse, and right as I'm telling her about this big fucking monster brown recluse comes like climbing out from where the chimney is. And
shit.
yeah, I was like, oh, that's it right, because she had never seen one before. I'm like, that's one right there. And she turned around and was like, oh my God.
Oh, man.
But
It's gonna kill us. Literally.
Yeah, I've found them crawling on me. But I don't know if
man.
well, the more I'll say this and then we can end the brown recluse conversation, but like the more research I've done, I've found that They won't bite you unless they feel threatened, like if you're smashing them against your skin. But if they crawl on you, there's a really good chance they're not going to bite you. And even then, if they do bite you, the chance you have to be allergic to their venom in order for it to be necrotic and rot your skin.
Gotcha.
So, of course, you don't know if you're allergic until you're bitten.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh my god.
I was just laughing at the thought
Back
of that
to the
being like
show.
a regular thing to get checked of being allergic to. Like that just sucks.
I don't think you. I don't know if. Yeah, I don't know if you can check if you're allergic to it. It's just kind of like, oh, my skin's rotting off. I guess it's bad.
All of our arachnophobic viewers or listeners are just like, what the fuck? Skip!
I'm on anxiety medication, so it doesn't really
I mean,
bother
I have
me.
a nice Black Widow tattoo. I like spiders,
There you go.
but like I don't want a real one on my skin crawling on me.
I had a
When I
friend
was
that had a
younger-
tarantula, and it's
I was gonna
and a
say when
friend
I
that
was
had tarantula
younger, I had a
that-
friend whose house was infested with black widows, and we used to catch them and put them in a fish bowl and then watch them fight.
oh my god.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Oh,
When I worked at when I worked at a haunted house near here, one of my friends had a tarantula, like a pet tarantula, and he's like, "You want to hold it?" I'm like, "Fuck no." Come on, she ain't gonna bite you. I'm like, I don't give a shit. No, bro, you
I
work at
have
haunted
held a
house. Fuck off,
tarantula
I don't want to
once,
fucking hold
but
it.
it was for 5
Yeah.
minutes, and that was it.
all right,
There's
so
this there's
everybody.
this mistake that because you like horror that you also like touching bugs and
Snakes.
seeing dead people for real,
Hmm.
and that is not true.
Like, not really. No. Like,
No.
Like in my experience, horror fans are kind of the opposite. It's like we watch this because we don't want this in real life. It's
Right.
almost like reading something. You want to kind of get to know it without being anywhere near it.
Well, I mean, I've always liked just knowing and like seeing things for myself, but like there's still points where like you just don't cross certain lines.
Robin,
Right.
you have like corpses buried in your house, don't you?
Yeah, she didn't really specify what line you shouldn't cross.
remember
like-
episode 1? Here's continuity. Remember episode 1? You don't trust somebody in a Freddy Krueger sweater. This is what the fuck we were talking about.
Now we know she has a spider tattoo.
Too
now.
many serial killer documentaries.
Right.
Just like
It's okay to murder someone, you just don't have sex with the corpse.
Exactly.
Don't cross the line, people.
Oh god.
Whoa! Are you ready to do the CryptTeaze shuffle? And 1 and 2 subscribe, 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 and 1 and 2 subscribe. Subscribe!
So what you guys say of this movie? Oh Jesus Christ! It can't even. Sorry. So much. Would you
Not
guys think
bad.
Creepshow holds up? Because it got brought back as a series on Shudder. I'm sure you guys have all seen that. Does the
Yeah.
movie hold up though?
I think so. I mean, for the presentation, like some of the like comic book style intertitles are always kind of interesting, and you still see those today. Not even in like superhero movies and that kind of thing,
Mhm.
but just that kind of presentation. The stories are like quirky, but they're not absolutely ridiculous.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like zombies you still see in like modern representations that take place in modern times. Plant things you don't see often, which is cool. The Leslie Nielsen Ted Danson bit is like enough psychological until the very end, and then you get like zombies and like bloated corpses and shit like that. But I think it's just out there enough that were the movie to be made today, it would do okay. I don't know if it'd be a smash hit necessarily, but I think there would be enough of a fan base for it, enough of an audience for it to
I
make
think
it.
it would work.
Yeah, I totally said that that's like most like guilty like murderers like worst nightmares, like their victims coming back and literally either killing them or haunting
Where's the
them.
cake, you bitch? As I have a
That
tiramisu beer
too.
as I have a tiramisu beer that I'm gonna open up. I was literally
I
I
said
was literally
Really
at the- I
mean
was-
Bernie
Like, when I was a kid one year and I saw that movie for the first time, I quoted that line on my birthday. My mom didn't get the reference.
Where's the cake, bitch?
All she heard was, "Where's the cake, you bitch?" So yeah, that movie is influential in my childhood.
Did you blame it on George Romero? And she's like, "Who the hell is that?
I don't care about your classmates.
What's his? Yeah, I was gonna say, what's his phone number? I'm calling his parents."
Do you know what your son said?
I think
What did
I think
you
the
say?
movie holds up. I definitely think the movie holds up. I'm probably I've seen most of the first season of the new Creepshow. And while I'm a huge Greg Nicotero fan, I think I'm in the minority where I expected, I guess, when I think Creepshow, I think the first one and even the second one, because there's, they are different, but they're also very similar in tone.
Mm.
And I kind of go with what you just said a second ago, is that if they tried to make it today, I don't know if it would hold up as well. And I think that's, to me, what's kind of happened with Creepshow, the show. It's just, I think the original Creepshow was made at a time where, they were doing something new and they were trying out new things. And of course, it's Romero and King, and they were bringing in all these names, and they were doing, it was, they didn't know. I mean, it was, at the time, it was an independent, low budget film, and it has that 80s charm. It has all that grain and grit, and you could tell that there's a lot of passion put behind it. You can always watch a movie and tell when people are trying to make something good, even if they don't fully succeed at it. You can still tell that there's heart and passion and dedication behind it.
Yeah.
I'm not getting a lot of that with the new Creepshow. And I'm not saying like Greg Nicotero and all them aren't into it. I'm just not. It's being done in a digital age where the sets look cheap, the special effects look cheap. It's just the stories I don't feel like they work as well. It has some great actors in it. It's got some great talent behind it, but I'm not getting the same feeling with the show that I am with the films.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad. I think if it was something that wasn't trying to be Creepshow, because that's how it feels to me, that it's trying to be Creepshow, even though technically it is Creepshow. Like, I've never seen Creepshow 3. There is a 3, but here's the thing. So it was made by people who had nothing to do with the first or the second film. It was just, I think, like, the rights or the name or something had gone up for either purchase or public domain or something along those lines. Somebody got their hands on it, they bought the name, and they made a Creepshow movie. And I've never watched it because I've been told to stay away from it, because it's just a bunch of people who made a movie and then called it Creepshow 3. So it doesn't have the same feeling, and it's everybody. And I normally I try to give things a chance, but I've seen the cover, and I've looked at the box, and I've watched the trailer for it, and it just looks god awful. So I've never given it a chance. Now, I don't think the Creepshow TV show is god awful, but it's just, I don't think it works for me personally, it doesn't work as well as the movies did. So, like I said, I know a lot of people love the new Creepshow. I couldn't get into it as much. I guess because after having seen 1 and 2, I have a level of expectation, considering it's people who were involved with those movies. I mean, granted, George Romero's passed away, and I don't think Stephen King has anything to do with the TV show, but
I think that, some of the stories they based on his older work, and I think that might be part of the problem too.
Right. Yeah, because that was the other thing. Like, the content for Creepshow, if I'm remembering correctly, it was made specifically for Creepshow. Like, it was all original content that they were making for
the
movie, based on EC comic storylines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they're
yeah.
going off base stuff. So like I've read some of his older stuff, like Backworth Carey and whatnot, and it's not like even really as much tongue in cheek, but it can be. It's just a different feel. And the comic book thing, I like how they had that in between each scene too.
Right.
It was definitely made for it.
I think now they're kind of trying to, I don't want to say like give Stephen King a renaissance because he kind of is already having one. Like Stephen King is everywhere again. Every new movie coming out, Stephen King, he's everywhere in the media now. It's almost like being reintroduced. I think the show is kind of doing him a disservice the way they're taking stuff from like Night Shift, the collection, and Skeleton Crew, and making those into Creepshow shorts. It's not putting the best foot forward for him. I don't think. Like they did the Raft and Creepshow 2. That was one of the stories from Night Shift, and that was campy, but it was a good campy.
Right.
Whereas now, where they're doing stuff for the TV show based on those old stories, it doesn't feel right. It feels out of place.
It's like they're trying to make fun of what he wrote before.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. More like
and then the other thing that bugs me, and this is like a technical thing, the creep looks great, but it's shot with like an 8K camera with like the perfect lighting, and so it looks like a robot. Like it looks like a robot with a Halloween mask on. And I think that's one of the great things about, especially movies from I'm a 80s horror fanatic. And
Me
I
too.
think, that was at that time when they were shooting with film cameras and everything, and they had production value and great lighting and everything, but I think they were doing it in a way where they knew that even if you showed the monster full on, to some degree less is more. So you shoot things in more shadow and dark than you do with like really great lighting. And even the cameras back then, like the Panavision cameras and the film cameras, they're not shooting it 8K or 16K. So the level of detail wasn't there. So you could hide a lot of the mistakes, and that things were puppets, like you could get away with things being animatronic. Now though, when you're shooting, like they're shooting Creepshow with the best kind of cameras, and it's completely in HD, so everything just looks fake. I mean, we know it's fake, but part of the magic behind a movie is trying to take something that is fake and forgetting that it's fake because of how it's done. And when I see the creep on the new show, even my 16-year-old like walked in when I was watching it, and he was like, "Ugh, what is that? Is that like a wax dummy that they've like? What are you?" And I told him like, "Oh, it's Creepshow." Like he's like, "Oh, this looks terrible." He was like, "Is this something you did?"
Oh wow.
What an insult.
So yeah, so yeah, he was just like, he was like shitting all over the creep, and I'm like, "No, you've got to see the original." And he's like, "I don't want to. If this is what it's like, I don't want to see the original." And I'm like, "No, the original's amazing. The special effects in it are so good." Yeah, so I think that's.
Oh, go ahead. I thought you were.
No, you're fine. What do what?
With the 80s like quality and stuff, I always argue that part of why it's better is because it seems the most realistic from that point of view. Like you can always see like in like some of the 80s music videos where like they've got in the desert like all the heat coming off of the horizon. Like you wouldn't see that in newer films because they would deem that as like low quality, but that's like what you would see in actual real life. So that's why I think some of those kind of resonate more too, because like you wouldn't see those details in real life. It's a little bit scary not seeing them too. Like some of the magic of the really old horror movies where you don't see as much, like your imagination runs with you more.
Yeah,
less you see.
It seems like for the new show, the problem is they're taking more of a Tales from the Crypt kind of angle and less, what's the word? It's silly.
Or like Friday Night at Freddy's or something.
Yeah. It feels silly for the wrong reasons. It's not quite campy. It's just more silly.
Mm-hmm. silly to be silly instead of for it to being as part of a purpose.
Right. Well, I think the other thing too is like when you watch if you watch the original Creepshow, when the characters come in, a lot of it has to do with the writing, because when you do an anthology, you have very little time for your audience to get to know who this character is, what they're about, what they believe, and how they feel, and it's really difficult to do those things. Whereas like with a full feature, you can do that over a period of an hour and a half or 2 hours. But in an anthology, you have to kind of get right into it, get to know the characters, because there's always that twist at the end where, sometimes you see it coming, sometimes you don't see it coming. But you have to learn who everybody is. And the one thing that I noticed with like the original Creepshow is they were able to spend a very little amount of time, and because the writing was so good, you really got to know who those characters were. So by the time it was over with, you either cared that they died or you were glad that they died based off of who it is. But like with the TV show, I'm not getting that at all. They're introducing like 3 or 4 characters, and I know they're foreshadowing and setting things up, but it doesn't feel like you're really getting to know who those characters are, caring who those characters are. So by the time the big payoff happens in the end, it doesn't matter. At least it didn't matter to me. So it was like, I think that was the other thing is they have some cool concepts, but I think the execution is done poorly, and it was losing my interest like very quickly.
That being said, I do love both. I mean, the Christmas special, especially the one that came out recently, it was like an hour long, and it was pretty funny. Like
I haven't seen it yet, but like I said, I stopped probably halfway through the first season.
Yeah.
Because I told myself, I was like, man, and I normally see things through, but I was losing interest so quickly as the stories went along. It just, I don't know, it wasn't doing it for me.
Yeah. Well, here's a fun one. If you guys could take one short from Creepshow and make a full movie out of it, like a full hour and a half film, which short would it be and why?
I think the one that gets overlooked, which I really like, is the one that begins and ends with the kid and his dad that throws out the comic book.
Yeah.
Like, like with the voodoo doll and stuff. Like, it's just crazy. I'm sorry.
Stephen King's son, Joe Hill.
Aww.
Yeah, and that was
seriously?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
Joe Hill as a little kid. And that was
So
also Atkins too as the father. It's hard to recognize him without his mustache. But yeah, it'd be kind of cool to see that one as a full movie. Just a kid who gets vengeance on parents who hate comics.
Well, he kind of reminded me of the kid in Salem's Lot, but that had less encouraging parents than him. Where he made I don't know, in Salem's Lot, he painted a lot of the masks and stuff. It was cool.
PJ, what about you?
Good question. I wasn't prepared for a question like that. Okay, so I think the one with all the roaches would actually be an interesting one to make into a feature film, because mainly, I mean, you have E.G. Marshall's character, but the one thing that you don't ever get introduced to is you don't really get introduced really to anybody else within the story. I mean, I know there was the maintenance man who came up to the door and everything, which was a great moment between the two of them, and you really get to see how much of a creep he really is. But I just think I personally am not complete, like I don't want roaches crawling on me, but if I see a roach, it doesn't like freak me out. Bugs don't really freak me out that much, but most everybody I know is just like terrified or completely disgusted by bugs or the thought of bugs. So I've seen a lot of bug movies like Slugs and They Nest, and it doesn't or like Arachnophobia even, which was more of a comedy, I think, than a horror film. But it never feels like they really try to bury the needle when it comes to the extent of people's phobias of insects and things. So I think it would be cool to really kind of delve more into what makes people squirm when it comes to bugs. And then, of course, playing those moments out more, and because there's a lot of atmosphere too. There's a lot of great atmosphere in that sequence. So I think playing that out through a feature film more and drawing that out a bit more would, and maybe explaining how he got full of bugs.
Yeah.
You know, which was another great special effects moment, but at the same time, it was there's a lot of roaches that came out of him. It didn't seem like there were that many roaches in that room whenever he died.
Roaches.
Do what?
Those are some very determined roaches.
Yes,
they're like, fuck this dude.
Yeah, it's like a backstory too, because it's the guy's wife on the phone with him saying, "My husband killed himself because of you." Like, rather than a phone call, I'd almost like to see that play out, almost like a Scrooge thing in the beginning, like the first half hour or so, maybe build that up.
Yeah.
No, I thought about that too, because he's like a super isolationist, and it wasn't even the bug thing. It's just he was such a germaphobe in general, like scared to get sick or like having any contaminants. Like
he would not do well these days. Let me tell you.
Yeah, you.
I don't know. I want a full length feature with the Weeds with Jordy. I think I could stand to watch like an hour and a half of his shenanigans.
The alien stuff.
Just because it was so weird, and I kind of want to see more of him like getting dicked over by the university professor because he brings this meteor to him. It's like, oh, imagine that, a country local getting screwed over by the university. That makes a lot of sense. And just all the one-liners, all of this shit, like when he says meteor shit, and I'm thinking again, wrestling man, like the predecessor to cowboy shit. And it's all kinds of things like that. Like I think it's the Jordan character is strong enough. You could make a full feature off of it. And I think the rest of the details would come with it. But I think that's a strong enough lead and a strong enough of a story there. You could draw that out if you needed to.
I think he'd really grow on people.
I'll drink to that.
That was Zuck-worthy.
That was.
I'll drink to that.
I'm catching a theme here that you all are not fans of Zuckerberg.
No.
Or Zucker.
Wait, are you?
Yeah, I don't know him, so I'm a bigger fan of Tom.
Oh yeah, MySpace guy is almost like forgotten now.
He really is. I'm trying to bring him back.
He was my first MySpace friend.
Same here. Same here. Funny enough, though, that's probably not really him in the photo. It's like some scary-looking 70-year-old gross pedophile.
Tom's like an acronym. It's just an idea.
For legal reasons, that's a joke.
Yes.
Yeah, before it's like it's Robin's fault. I agree.
That bitch again. Get her.
With her teardrop tattoo.
The fuck, Zuck. Oh, shit.
The movie The Crate actually made into a feature film at some point. I could have sworn there was a movie. It was the same premise. It was just like The Crate, but it was a feature. Am I wrong?
I mean, it did look really familiar, but I mean, I'd seen that before, so like.
I might be thinking of Basket Case or something, but I thought it was more recent than that.
I mean, it's similar to The Thing, right? Similar to The Thing.
There's a lot of movies with monsters in containers that escape.
Like the end of that felt very Basket Case. It definitely got some vibes of some Frank Henenlotter there.
Yeah.
I just remembered being like, oh my God, he's just eating the entire body. Like the first one where it just kept going up and up and up. I'm like, where is it going?
Eyes.
He has a very strong colon.
Thighs in his ass.
Oh god.
All the bones and jeez.
Well, Robin, how do you eat your bodies?
Hey, I don't know. I don't disclose information.
She doesn't eat. She has them stored. Remember?
I just thought of like 3 different weird serial killer things that they have done to that. So I was just like, I'm just not going to say anything.
Incrimination. If you guys could recast this movie, which one would you recast and who would you have?
Ooh.
That almost feels like sacrilege. This one, but I'll think about it.
Like if they're making like a modern day Creepshow, aside from the show, they're gonna make this exact movie over again.
Like with the same skit.
Yeah.
Oh, it wouldn't happen or be like realistic, but like with the kid and his dad at the beginning, it really reminded me of the Twisted Sister music videos where they're like, the teacher's like, what do you want to do with your life?
I want to rock. This is a small recast, but I think it would work on several levels. Make White the maintenance guy who is black, because we have to have that joke. Waka Waka, it's the 80s. Have him be Jordan Peele. Have Jordan Peele play him, because I think he has enough comedic integrity to really drive that one home while still being a goot, while still making it work.
I would see Ari Aster directing one of the shorts, and I would see Robert Pattinson playing the least Robert Pattinson role of the old man in the apartment. The roaches. That would make a great Ari Aster movie, like a 90-minute build up to that big roach scene where you just kind of see roaches squirming across.
Okay, hold on, because that's not even realistic. A 90-minute Ari Aster movie? Are you fucking kidding me? When the first cut for Midsummer was 4 hours, you want that motherfucker to trim his shit in 90 minutes? Really?
He's challenging him as a filmmaker.
There you go. Okay, I can get behind that then.
Yeah, I would just like to see the Twilight kids in the Roach one, because I've always wanted to see them covered in roaches, and that's the only reason.
That's weird.
I can get behind that. That is weird, but I can get behind that.
They took $12 from me to see Eclipse. I took my dad to see that movie. It was horrible.
He's talking about Twilight.
Did you say you took your dad to see that?
No. I said my date.
Oh, I thought you said I took my dad.
I heard dad too. I heard
Which look, Bond look.
Don't talk anymore.
I am not one to judge father-son bonding activities. Mine's dead. But listen.
Well, he was Team Jacob, and I had to prove him wrong. You see,
I was gonna say. Oh man. Well, my dad is dead now too. He was alive at the time that movie came out, but if he wanted to go see it, he would have to tell me all about it by the time it was over with, because I wouldn't have gone.
Oh man.
Okay, this could be a weird one, so just bear with it. But say that all 5 of the stories, even all 6, let's include the kid with the comic book and the voodoo doll, all that, tie it all together. I realize some of the charm is how they are all their own standalone stories, but what kind of universe do we create wherein all of these stories exist?
But that we create, or
No, Rose, the fucking Facebook people.
I'm trying to understand the question.
Yeah, me too.
If we're trying, basically.
Are you saying, like, how could they all fit into a single universe where the stories flow together?
Yes. They're all interconnected somehow. Like all of the anthology series anymore. Like everybody has their theories of how American Horror Story is all connected, or how this is all connected. Like,
actually, Lucas,
in what way could all of these be in the same, like, what's that?
They are all connected. That was actually something I looked up. Every story has that same ashtray from the first one. It
Marble.
Makes
Yeah, the marble ashtray.
yeah. So they're all connected.
Son of a bitch! There goes my game.
Well, I was gonna, and not to be a party pooper, but I was gonna say that most anthologies are done the way they are because it's difficult to connect the stories, and that's what like the voodoo story is. It's like you have to take these 5 seemingly completely different random concepts and find a way to connect them all together. So the connective tissue really is the anthology part, which is like the wraparound story.
Yeah.
Unless you could find a way to where you get one single character that somehow finds their way from, one story to the next and is a part of every single story.
Kind of like a Randall Flagg kind of character.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the connection is like the son and the dad and the voodoo and the Creepshow book. Like I just watched the movie Asylum yesterday about this doctor that goes to an asylum, and he goes from patient to patient. You kind of find out why they're put in this insane asylum. So like that's how it's connected, and that's how it's all a part of this one universe, right? So
I would see it as kind of like a Marvel's Avengers connection, where, like, bear with me here, maybe Stephen King is going between story to story and taking like an infinity artifact of some sort, and they have to band
The
together
Infinity Meteor.
and destroy. Yeah, the meteor shit. He's collecting all the meteor shit.
Well, Stephen King has his own multiverse on his own, like the Marvel universe. So that's a whole
Let
story
Chase
on its
finish.
own.
Let Chase finish. I like where this is going.
Yeah, it's like he has that gauntlet full of meteor shit, or I don't know. But other than that, who has a better one? That one kind of sucked.
I think it's the closest thing that we've gotten so far to it.
But I mean,
Singular
it could be
connective
like,
idea.
Jordy worked for Mr. Pratt at one time. Just like the little shit, like the little like menial shit. Like I don't know.
Like on the TV, was that another character that was that like the father he was watching on TV?
Kind of like how we mentioned the ashtray that's in every one of the stories, like some kind of connective tissue beyond. Because my reading of it all is it's like all of the stories except for the overarching, asshole Stan. Is there a good Stan character ever in anything in any media? Just saying.
Say Stan.
You don't like the guy from South Park? Aw.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Poor kid.
He's all right. He's gonna grow up to be a son of a bitch, though. Just you watch. No, but
I learned a lot about you, Lucas. You hate Stans.
You're welcome. No, the idea being that like the connective tissue, as PJ put it, was the, Stan catching his kid with the comic. Like, what if like the kid went to school with somebody else in the story's kid, or like the mom stayed at the university that Professor Stanley teaches at, or like shit like that.
Was Wilma's best friend or something?
God, Wilma was such a cunt. I'm sorry. I have no.
That was a
She was. She had one bullet to the head. I'm like, is that all you got? Like, you got any more in there? Like, I'm not trying to advocate violence against women or anything, but Jesus Christ, like double tap. Like, you're learning some shit about me. No.
Wow. All right, so on that note,
Please don't head on that. God damn.
we're keeping that in, Lucas, all of it. Kidding.
That's fine. I'll take
the,
that one.
closing thoughts on the movie as a whole. Anything you want to say about it?
I love it.
It's still good. Like, it's still one of my favorite movies I've seen from childhood that I still love as an adult. And I can't say that about like a lot of old movies. Like even The Shining, I kind of came to not like quite as much growing up. But Creepshow it works still.
I agree. I'm a sucker for a good anthology horror movie, like the ABCs of Death, the VHS series, all those. So, like, I really get a kick out of it, especially because, like, 2 hours, maybe for me, again, I'm probably the youngest one in the chat at 24. Like, that's a long time for you to just sit there and watch something. But it makes this movie made 2 hours go by super fucking quick. So.
Yeah. Lucas, I'm 17, so I say that very offensively.
Oh, fuck off. And you're drinking? You got a fucking Reds? Okay.
This is apple juice.
I'm not trying to be mean, but you are not aging well.
Nope. My teacher says no.
I'm kidding. You're beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, come on. That's a little.
Anyways. No, I agree with pretty much everything everyone has said. That's how I feel about it. I think it holds up 100%. I think Creepshow managed to do what a lot of anthologies are trying to do today, and so many other anthologies that were before it and after it have tried to do, and that is create a fun, interesting, and engaging series of stories that all hold up in their own form and fashion. And there's not a bad story in the bunch. Like when you watch, you can watch the VHS movies or trying to think of some other, well, I mean, even like with the Amicus Dr. Terror's House of Horrors or the House That Dripped Blood. I mean, there's always some good stories in there, but usually there's always some stories that flop as well. There's ones that I think that don't always work in terms of narrative or character or whatever the case may be. But like with Creepshow, it pretty much works across the board. You might have a favorite sequence, but you still thoroughly enjoy all the other segments of the movie. Like there's not a bad segment in the bunch.
Right.
And yeah, so I'm hard pressed to find or think of another anthology I think that works as well as Creepshow did and still does today. Because I watched Creepshow not too long ago because I got the Scream Factory released like a really nice box set that comes with like a hard case and a little booklet and everything, and it's a really well done release. And it had been a while since I watched it, but I mean, it held up in every respect. And I think that's what sets it apart from all the others.
Yeah. PJ, what do you have coming up and where can everybody find you?
Okay, so you can bloodmoonpictures.com is our website. That's where you can find like our movies and things that we've done, volumes of blood and horror stories, and kind of find out more about us and what we're doing. Eric Huskisson's my producing partner. We work together. Right now, 13 Slays Till Xmas, which is our most recent anthology that we've done. I mean, it probably holds up, I would say, just as good as Creepshow. So you should definitely check it out whenever. So it's in pre-order now through Scream Team Releasing, and then it releases in February. We were it was supposed to come out this past December, but thanks to our good friend COVID, that did not help matters much. So it ended up, because of shipping delays and a few other delays we ended up having to keep everybody safe because we filmed during the pandemic. That kind of had to push the release back. But 13 Slays Till Xmas is what it's called, or it's Xmas if you see the title. And so that's what we got coming out. And then Facebook is probably the most I'm easily accessible on Facebook, much to the behest of my wife. And that's pretty much it.
Well, PJ, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time. I had a blast talking about Creepshow. Guys, join us next time. Episode, what are we on, 7, 8 now or something? Episode 100 coming out next week. Everybody
hit me apple juice too hard.
Before Satan Claus breezed in here, you were making some kind of a point?
I was just saying that Christmas is a shame.
Oh, Christ, not this again.
This time of year when I was very young, my great-grandmother would sit us all around a roaring fire and scare the pants off us with creepy stories.
Scary stories on Christmas Eve? What makes you think those are going to make a comeback?
Trust me, I know a thing or two about resurrection.
I love that idea. I say we each take turns telling 2 stories. Whoever tells the worst one picks up the tab.
Good idea.